Do we allow this to happen? Which would be better for the case, right? If he named somebody the senator in exchange for a bribe. But what happens with the state of Illinois? Because he will have named somebody the senator, and then the Illinois would have a corrupt senator on their hands. Blagojevich, everyone talked about how stupid he was. I don't think Blagojevich was stupid at all. He was a smart guy, and he was a charming guy, but he had been corrupted by the disgusting Illinois politics. He goes on a game show. That game show was called The Apprentice, with a host named Donald Trump.
You're fired.
That game show host, Donald Trump, gets elected to be president of the United States. And whether you like Trump or you dislike Trump, and I'm ambivalent on the subject myself, one thing that we can all agree upon is that Trump rewards loyalty.
His third appearance, Tom Simon Investigations. This is actually the first time he's been to Tampa and didn't do Matt's show and did mine. So that might cause a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, it's like you were my side chick and now we're moving in together.
So anyway, don't forget you can always go to Simon Investigations, whether it be Facebook or whether it be Instagram. He's big on both. Actually, pretty impressive numbers on both.
Well, I think largely thanks to you. I mean, a lot of your folks have come over and followed me, and I'm very grateful for that.
Do you get some feedback from the Bubba Army sometimes?
Yeah. Bubba Army people are constantly in the comments, and I get messages from some of them. Heard you on Bubba, enjoyed you, so I can't thank you enough for having me on.
So speaking of which, I try to play no less than 2, and I try to get to 3 because your Instagram is so slick and you got it so well produced. It's usually under a minute, and it's a really fascinating story. And so I can put it up on my screen, promote your channel, and also get some good content.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
But I don't ever usually pre-listen to it. I just go, it's completely on either.
Are you choosing a random one, or do you have one of your staff pick out a good one?
No, I choose it. I choose it. So, and I usually choose it on the fly.
Based on the headline or whatever.
So, like, we're on the air, and we'll go into commercials, and I got 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So I always have your Instagram pulled up on my right corner. So I'll pull it up, and then I'll see if you got a new one. Mm-hmm. And then if not, I'll scroll down and see how many views. I figure maybe one's got like 1,580 views, one's got like 260. I figured that 1,580 must be a hot one, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it was last week. I was going, I saw this one, and I think the clickbait might have caught me, and it was like prisoner sex or prisoner something.
I'm going to get you an FCC violation with that one. I think.
Well, you used the word load, and I'm thinking, I think that's okay in the context of an FBI age. So I have to put my FCC hat on because I've been fined. I had one of the largest fines ever.
You're a legend for it.
But in doing so, I've become kind of an expert of the context of what you say.
What euphemisms can be used that are going to keep you out of trouble.
And they're really, there's specifically, there's a rule about body excrements. They're big on that.
Yeah.
But so I actually don't listen to it, but I see it and I play it. Then after I play it, and I want to have you describe the story, after I play it, I go, well, you know what? Listen.
Did you dump out, or did you
No, I didn't dump out.
Okay.
I didn't dump out because I figured, okay, well, if I'm questioned about this
right,
and get an NAL, which is notice of liability, look at that. That's from an FCC agency. That's from a government agency that you didn't even know what the acronym was.
I did not. This is fascinating.
NAL, notice of liability.
Okay. And
when you get one of those, it's not good.
I can imagine.
So I've gotten many. So if I were to get an NAL, they allow you to plead, like they'll say, okay, this is the clip in question. Explain
the context. You get to make your case.
Yes. So
now, do these things always originate from some busybody's complaint?
Yes.
Always.
Because the FCC doesn't even have the manpower to have monitoring. They don't even have a local office here anymore.
Well, that's good.
I mean, yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. But they only have an office in Miami. They've scaled it way back. So now all complaints are just listener based if you complain. So one, the chances of a listener being offended by that is virtually nothing.
Yeah.
Secondly, my complaint would be, I got a 26-year veteran of the FBI that's recanting an investigation / arrest / story that he investigated and prosecuted.
Yeah.
And load is not necessarily a sexual term, although it was used in a sexual term here, but the FCC calls it titillating. So if you have a fleeting expletive and you just keep going on and on and on about it, that's when you start getting in trouble. But if you cut it off and you don't go on and say, whoa, 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 like if somebody was to say something inappropriate, be like, you'd be like, whoa, stop. We're not going any further with that. Then they love that. Like they absolutely love it. They feel as if you're being responsible.
I get it.
So I played the load.
Well, we should probably tell the story.
Well, we're
for your
going to now.
audience. Okay.
So Tom Simon, 26-year veteran, FBI. I love his Instagram. Go see his Instagram. It's Simon Investigations. Same thing on Facebook. He usually puts up a new one every day.
Every day about 4:30 in the morning.
Right. 4:30 in the morning?
That's when I get up.
You're not too far. I get up at 3:20, so I'm only up an hour and 20
you're seeing
more.
A posting from me at 4:30 in the morning, I'm on the toilet.
Yeah. So he has this story that he's going to tell now that I found was a little scared when I played it and automatically started making excuses on how I would get out of it if it was a problem. But tell the story. And by the way, if you want to go watch him tell the story go to his Instagram page. You can get it. You can literally get into a rabbit hole with all of your stories. I mean, how many stories?
There's probably about 2,000 unique stories at this point.
I was going to say a couple thousand.
Yeah.
So in this particular incident,
all right. So this was a prison guard in Honolulu of all places, where I was an FBI agent for 7 years. His name was Richard, and he began accepting oral favors from a female inmate who was from Thailand there on an immigration detainer, waiting to be deported. And at one point, she took care of him. I'll make this FCC compliant, even though we don't need to.
No, we don't need to, but
And she took her jumpsuit, her prison jumpsuit, and spit her load into it, and then crumpled it up, kept it in her cell, and then contacted her attorney, who then contacted ultimately the FBI.
You guys.
And and so it lands on my squad. One of my trainees got the case, and I was kind of guiding him through it. And working with him peripherally on it. So I'm not taking credit for his case. He did all the work. But you have this claim of an inmate. Inmates are constantly making claims that are nonsense or unsubstantiatable. And but this one, we had physical evidence.
When the lawyer contacted y'all, did he say, hey, we got evidence?
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, you probably would have just
otherwise we're happy to hear the inmate's story, but the inmate's
the evidence is what got you a little.
Well, right. So we had to take a cheek swab of Richard, the correctional officer, and send that in for DNA testing along with the jumpsuit, which there's no good reason for his load to be in that jumpsuit. And obviously it came back to him. And so it's illegal for a prison guard or corrections officer to have sex with an inmate under any circumstances. It's a federal crime because the
position of power.
Yes, the power
authority.
Dynamic between them is just too wide. There's a it's like a child. They can't consent.
Is it really illegal? Is it like felony?
Yeah, it's a felony.
Yeah,
it's a civil rights violation. And so he gets charged with it, and he's got nowhere to go. Loses his job, pleads guilty. And the punchline to the story is absolutely true, and you could Google this, is that his name, Richard's name, his last name was Seaman. His name, Bubba, was Dick Seaman.
Richard Seaman, better known as Dick Seaman.
Right. And you may have enjoyed and so I was the press spokesperson for the FBI in Honolulu, and so anytime a big case was made, I was the guy in the courthouse steps kind of talking to the local media, and the local media was there very excited to see.
They had to eat that one up.
Oh yeah, they were very excited to see Dick Seaman leave the courtroom. And then he did something so irrevocably stupid, I can't imagine. He comes out, sees the cameras, and starts sprinting down the road. Didn't say no comment or anything like that. Just starts running like a jackrabbit.
Now he pled guilty.
Yeah. The reporters were super excited to chase him because they have nothing to do except stand.
They never get to do that.
Yeah, and so they're chasing the guy. He's running up the street and down the street. He goes to a local outdoor kind of town center mall, and he's hiding behind a planter. And they're there. He calls 911 on the reporters. The reporters explain what they're doing, and so the whole thing was this giant fiasco. It's all there on YouTube for you to watch, and it was just a really amusing story that I've been able to tell for over the past decade or so, and I'm glad it did not get you into trouble.
No, well, I had a really good alibi excuse in the fact that I got a FBI agent that told the story of a crime that he investigated, and it's the truth. It's not made up. It's not a parody. It's not so. And it was so I think I would be. I mean, just one word. Now
I got your back. If I was hauled in to testify, I got your back.
Thank you for that, my friend. Now, when the FBI shows up at a prison and asks for your cheek DNA swab as Dick Seaman, you have to be like, I'm fucked. Like
I suspect so, yeah. And I also think...
Did he lawyer up?
Yeah, right. 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's probably in a union or something like that.
Right.
And so, yeah, so he lawyered up. I'm not sure what the machinations were happening at the Bureau of Prisons. I suspect he was put on some kind of administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation, and he just never returned.
Did he do time?
Yeah, he got something. I'm trying to remember. Like 3, 4, 5 years, something like that.
No.
I talk about that in the video. I can't remember what it was.
When you're like a former prison guard, former cop, former CIA, FBI, DEA, all the bureaus, and you get convicted of a crime and you got to do time, are you automatically protected because of what, I mean, you hear a lot of times they get put in the shoe or they get put in solitary.
That's a good question. That's probably a better question for Matt Cox. You may be surprised to learn I've never actually served time in prison myself.
Well, I know you never have. But you know every fucking rule. I'm
just honestly.
I got to ask you what state statute 5862499.
I asked Matt Cox the same question, and he said that that depends what level of prison you're in. If you're in a prison with like really scary, dangerous people, then they put you in some sort of protective custody, a SHU, a special housing unit. But if you're in like a camp or a minimum security and you're kind of working on your pickleball game, then there's probably not much of a need.
You pickleball player?
I have played pickleball, yeah. My son is currently taking pickleball at Florida State right now as an elective. So.
Taking it as a course?
Yeah, your tax dollars at work.
Where were these fucking courses when you and I were going through?
I actually took racquetball at Clemson my last semester.
That's right, you went to Clemson.
Yeah.
How about my IU Hoosiers?
I know. Congratulations, my man.
Yeah,
how about a good week for you.
How about that, huh?
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed in college football right now, though. I feel like it's just almost we're on the bubble of it being really illegal.
Well, I mean, they're professional players at this point. We got to call it what it is. They're professional players sort of being sponsored by universities. And the idea that they're student athletes is now
supposedly, and he came out, I guess, and said, but Mark Cuban infused $100 million into Mark Cuban went to Indiana.
Oh, did he? Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
And he infused $100 million as a 3-year budget for the NIL at $33 million a year.
Wow. Yeah.
And then John Cougar Mellencamp he also lives like 15 minutes from the stadium. He's from Bloomington, Indiana as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you can see that the NIL is effective and works in the portal. You can literally build a team if you got enough money.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I mean, it's no longer about necessarily coaching them up, having the best schemes, the best recruits from high school. It's about money.
Yeah.
I mean, don't they always say follow the money trail? It'll take you
Absolutely.
to where.
And I suspect it may have always been to a point, but this latest kind of iteration of college football has supercharged it and allowed a basketball school like Indiana to become a football powerhouse.
I know. I mean, nobody would. I mean, they were now, and what you don't understand is they are the losingest. I don't know, is that the right word?
Yeah.
I'll fucking white trash it up. They're the most. They're the most losingest Division I football program in America.
Is that a fact?
They've lost 3 more games than Northwestern.
Wow, that's
Northwestern second. Like Indiana has lost 713 games, and Northwestern's lost like 709 games.
That's so funny.
So one more good year, and IU might have them. Didn't you bust the Northwestern point shaving scheme?
I was in Chicago, and I'm friends with the case agent on that one. That was not my case, but I was kind of in the room when it happened. It sort of I was in Chicago right after that case went down. And
was that football or basketball?
It was football. It was football. Yeah, the players were basically playing, throwing the games and to extend the point spread. They were losing anyway. And for the Chicago mob, and so the FBI investigated it. The case agent was a former pro football player, and he made a great case there. And we were criticized in the media for protecting the integrity of the point spread.
You're kidding me.
No, I mean, our argument, the FBI's argument, was we were trying to get organized crime out of college football, which seemed like an honorable thing to do.
Right? Did convictions, please?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm sure. I think a lot of people ended up going to prison for it. I wasn't the case agent, so I don't have like an encyclopedic knowledge of the case, but it was an important case at the time.
The guy I had on earlier that I taped today talked about his experience, and he knew that he wanted to be a NYPD cop from the time he was a young boy.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he used to go to the post office and steal FBI most wanted posters. And he would put them up in his room. And, you know, remember back in the, I mean, you got to remember back. Do FBI still do the FBI most wanted posters?
Yeah,
the physical posters.
Sure, absolutely.
Like the kinds they put in the mail.
They put them on the website right now as PDFs, so anyone can download them to decorate their home.
Right.
But I suspect that there's packages sent to post offices still. Yeah, headquarters probably does that.
And I don't think that I don't think that they would arrest you or get you in trouble if you got caught stealing one of those. I don't think it's federal property where they're going to really throw the book at you. So this guy would go, and he said there was this one particular post office that, you know, they must have gotten the FBI must send them several.
Yeah.
So he said because he'd steal one, and the next day they'd have another one back up of the same dude. And him and his buddy were 10 and 11 years old, and they would go into like pizza joints and like car chop shops and all these underbelly, you know, places, inner bowels of New York at 10 and 11, and show these guys, hey, have you seen?
Good. The system worked. This warms my heart.
But I'm like, hold on. What if at 11 you had ran into a guy that is really such a bad guy that you're on? I mean, listen, you know the criteria. I mean, in order to be on the FBI most wanted list in New York City, I got to think you're a pretty big piece of shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So, he said, we didn't really think about the fact that if we ever ran into the bad guy, but what we wanted to do is we wanted to get intel on where he would possibly go, and then go to our nearest precinct and give him the information. And he said,
get the reward.
Yeah.
Set these kids up for life.
So he said they did it for about one summer, and they had no luck, like not any luck at all. And then they said Atari came out, or like something came out, and they're like, fuck, this is too much things. But he said he knew he wanted to be a New York PD police officer from the time he was 4. Mm-hmm. And so he graduated high school, and then you can't apply to be in the New York PD until you're 20. And so he had like 2 years where he had to just do odd jobs and things like that. And then he applied and then went to the academy, what have you. But is that kind of the same process?
Yeah, I wanted to be an FBI agent since I was a little kid.
That's what you always have said.
Yeah, for all the wrong reasons, right? I thought I'd be jumping off of moving trains for a living.
You're watching Mission Impossible,
getting into
thinking you're going to be next Tom Cruise.
Day. Yeah, right.
Here's the bad thing about the FBI is, so if you want to be a New York cop, you could probably walk up to a uniformed New York cop, and he could like direct you potentially on how to do it. But you motherfuckers from the FBI are so undercover.
We walk among you, Bubba.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, you don't know who to ask.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't say, unless you were watching them do a sting in your neighborhood, and you can see the FBI jackets, and at that point, they really don't want to talk to you. They're a little bit busy.
Focused. Yeah.
So it was kind of like happenstance is the fact that your mom sold a house to an FBI guy, and you were able to make a connect, because usually we don't know who you guys are.
Right. And it's just, there's not a lot of, this is pre-internet, right? Now you can go to FBIjobs.gov and read all about what's required. But even so, if you go to FBIjobs.gov, they don't really tell you the nitty gritty about what you really need to do. Like, there's no list that the FBI publishes of the competitive college majors that people should get. And so a lot of young people make the mistake of going into criminal justice or criminology or psychology or sociology, because it makes logical sense that those would be majors that the FBI would want, but the FBI doesn't want those majors. They're not competitive for the agent position. And if you waste your time and money getting a criminal justice degree, the odds are you will never be an FBI agent.
The other thing is, they're not teaching you criminology the way the FBI wants to treat you.
Well, the FBI has an academy to teach you that stuff, right? We don't need.
I'm saying they're not teaching their curriculum.
We don't need you to go to Duke to learn criminology. We'd love you to go to Duke to learn computer science, because the FBI can't teach you that.
Right.
And so that's sort of the
like you said,
process.
A forensic accountant.
Accounting, the competitive majors, because people ask me this all the time. It's probably the number one question I get from young people would be computer science, any kind of engineering, civil engineering, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, biology, chemistry, physics, accounting or finance or any 4-year degree plus going to law school.
Lawyer.
Be a lawyer.
Like Todd Foster,
right?
He reverse engineered it. I don't think Todd was a lawyer.
Really? Okay.
When he was an FBI agent, I think it was FBI agent. I actually think he was a U.S. attorney.
He was at some point. I don't know what the trajectory was of his career, but yeah. And so those are the majors. And then what you do is you graduate with those degrees, and then you work in that field for 3 to 5 years. And then, taking on large projects involving complex problem solving. And then you could apply to become an FBI special agent, and with a sense of comfort that the work you've put in by majoring in something hard and learning something new and then working in that field is going to pave the road for you to at least get the FBI interview, in which case then it's yours to sink or swim.
Now, will the FBI not even talk to you if you don't have a college degree?
Unfortunately, the FBI right now is not hiring agents without college degrees. There's a talk about reversing that, and there's an argument for it, an argument against it. It hasn't happened, and I don't believe it will happen.
As a non-FBI agent, but yet a fan of the agency, I would hope that they wouldn't cave and they would continue to have that up. It makes it to me more upper crust, and that 4 years that you do in college builds character. And, builds independence and builds a skill set, especially if they do what you told them to do. One of the, 8 or 9 different things that you learn. Man, I mean, you could, I wouldn't say write your own ticket, but let's say you're a good kid. You've never been in trouble. That's probably the first thing, because I would think that if you had any scrape of the law at all, you're out.
A felony conviction is going to knock you out. Contact with the police or misdemeanors. The FBI is going to want to explore what happened.
Right.
But understand that the average starting age of an FBI agent is 30.
That late?
Yeah. And the vast majority of FBI special agents are taking a cut in pay to join the FBI.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Do a lot of FBI guys come from other agencies, like not necessarily federal agencies, but local municipalities?
Yeah, I think it probably... We're dealing with like 25% or 20 to 25% coming out of the military, and probably another 15 to 20% coming out of police forces and other law enforcement agencies.
I know there's also, because I know a guy who got killed in the line of duty as an FBI agent in Terre Haute, Indiana. But he was a Terre Haute police drug interdiction police officer. And then he would work. They would, I guess, the FBI, the local FBI bureau. He was also an FBI guy, like a local,
like a task force officer.
Yes, like a as needed task force guy. There was a gate at the FBI office in Terre Haute, Indiana, that was broken, and they had put in for it to be repaired for like a year and a half. And the government is slow to fix anything, or certainly doesn't want to spend $10,000 to fix a gate. He was on the FBI Terre Haute property getting out of his car, and there was a bad guy who had been arrested by an FBI agent 4 years earlier and had done a little bit of time, but really had a hard-on for the bureau, and was got inside the parking compound and shot Greg and killed him to death.
Oh, what a nightmare.
And he was in the capacity of working for the FBI at the time, and it was just super sad, and it was just super sad. So tell me about your FBI training. Is it? I know it's at Quantico.
Yeah.
And is it a facility in itself? Is it like an athletic facility?
Yeah. So it's looks like a small college. So Quantico, Virginia is a large Marine Corps base about an hour and a half south of Washington, D.C. Kind of nestled in the core of that Marine Corps base is the FBI Academy. And, several high-rise buildings with dorm rooms, kind of state-of-the-art classrooms, cafeteria, et cetera. And so every FBI special agent goes through that academy. When I went through, it was a 16-week program, when nowadays it's a 20-week program. And so you're living in the dorms again with a roommate.
So you're
in the cafeteria.
You're not commuting there. You're living there.
You're living there. You're living there for 20 weeks. And and you're learning, it's like a mixture between law school and boot camp. You're learning how to shoot. You're learning how to fight. You're learning how to handcuff. You're learning how to investigate. You're learning constitutional law, white-collar crime, foreign counterintelligence. You're in class a lot, and then you're in kind of the gym learning defensive tactics and kind of how to wrestle someone to the ground, get their hands behind their back, and put cuffs on them. And you're learning how to shoot. And so different people are coming in with different skill sets because we're bringing in people from the military. We're bringing in accountants like me.
Were you a good shot?
I was a terrible shot during the academy. That was my big stressor, yeah. Because I was a CPA, right? So I never really handled a gun much in my day-to-day life.
But you had to have, you got to carry a gun.
Oh, no, right, exactly. So over the course of my 16-week training, I became a proficient shooter. I'm still not a marksman.
What was your service, 9?
Yeah, so they start us out. Again, we're going back in time. When I first started out, I had a Sig Sauer 9mm pistol.
Okay, very familiar.
And then over time, the FBI then switched to a 40 caliber Glock, which I preferred. And
I do too. Much better gun.
And then there was some leap forward in like bullet technology or rounds that made a 9mm actually more effective with more penetrating power than the 40 caliber.
Based on the ammo.
I think so. This is not my area of expertise, so I'm sure I'll get roasted in the comments. But we switched to a Glock 9mm, and that's how I spent the rest of my career carrying that, and that's what I carry today.
Did you ever have to pull it?
I pulled it out several times, but every bad guy was happy to put their hands up and surrender, so I never actually fired it at anyone in the line of duty. And most FBI agents go their whole career without having to fire their weapon at another person.
People also don't understand that like 98% of all FBI cases don't go to court. I mean,
right.
Didn't you tell me that? Like,
well, they plead out. I mean, they go.
Right. I mean, but
they don't go to trial.
I'm sorry, don't go to trial. Not the actual trial process.
Right.
Because if the FBI has got you, they got you.
Right.
Because you're not bringing shit to the table.
Well, also, with the check on that being the U.S. Attorney's Office, the prosecutors in the federal system aren't really cool with losing cases, and so they're not even going to indict somebody unless you can prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Now, did you ever get frustrated with the U.S. Attorney's Office when you thought you had a solid case, had it wrapped up nice, and or were you pretty good at having your cases so wrapped up that they always took your case, or did you have any no pros?
The trick is getting the U.S. attorney, the prosecutor assigned to your case, invested in that case during the course of the investigation. And so, sitting down with them once every few weeks, updating them on the case, what the evidence is, soliciting ideas from them, give them a sense of ownership of the case, and then put it together in a really organized fashion. And I liked using a 3-ring binder and then kind of bringing it to them once you're actually done with the case. And then what they do, in my mind, I'm bringing this to them because this thing's ready to be indicted or presented to a federal grand jury for a finding of probable cause. What always happens, though, is the prosecutors, because they're lawyers, they want more, and they come back to me with like a punch list, like you would if you bought a house. I need you to do this, 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 and this, and then I think we'll be ready. And then I go back and do the work, and then the case gets made.
You do the majority of the work.
I do the investigative work. Once we get into the courtroom setting, and they're the ones who are out there trying to razzle dazzle the judge and negotiate the plea. The FBI doesn't do that. And if it goes to trial, to actually present the case to a trial.
What's your largest case with regards to amount of time sentenced?
Oh, that's a good question.
Have you ever been asked that?
I never really get hung up on the sentences. Again, I was working mostly fraud cases, so my sentences were sort of lame. Like, I'd be busting my ass for 2 years to make a fraud case, and I'd be doing cartwheels up and down the hallways of the FBI office when I got 36 months for the guy. Then meanwhile, down the hallway at the bank robbery squad, some homeless guy wanders into a bank with like a note written in crayon and a paperback.
20 years.
Yeah, he like 20 years. So it's always a little disheartening. So I learned very early on not to really get hung up.
You had to have a couple big ones.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the case against Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich.
Oh, were you on it? Were you?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, sure, but
because he ended up getting, I think, pardoned by Trump.
Yeah.
Well, or commuted.
You got commuted and then pardoned. Commuted in the first term, pardoned in the second term.
Right.
So he was a governor of Illinois. And again, I want to make it clear that I was on the team of people conducting this investigation. Right. I was not the number one guy. This was not my case. I oversaw the wiretap of his home and office.
Is it true that wiretaps are, Hollywood makes them look really, really glamorous and stuff, but wiretaps are hard to get a judge to grant. Is that true?
Yeah, because you need to establish, you need to show probable cause to believe that a crime is being committed and that he's using the phone to facilitate that crime and that there's no other investigative tactics you can use to gather the evidence other than tapping their phone.
Multiply that by the fact that it's the governor.
Yeah, right. So the stakes are super high.
I mean, so I've been told by, people that I know in law enforcement that Hollywood often glamorizes, how oh, we're just going to get a wiretap, that it is judges say no more than they say yes to wiretaps.
Perhaps, but I would also say that there's so many levels of review at the FBI and at the U.S. Attorney's Office and at the Department of Justice in D.C. that every lawyer involved wants to say no so we don't get rejected by a judge.
Right. So it's passed the sniff test 5 times before it's going in front of Your Honor.
Yeah, it's a huge writing exercise and down to like you need to have the phone records from the phone company saying that this phone is registered to him. You need to have informants making calls with him who are recording those calls on that phone line to show that he's actually using that phone.
Right.
The phone line is dirty, as they would say.
So he was the former governor of Illinois.
He was the governor of Illinois at the time we did the investigations, and there were always rumors that he was doing what they call pay for play, where he was awarding contracts and jobs to individuals who made political contributions to him, and which is kind of the way Illinois politics work. That wasn't shocking to us. And out of nowhere, the Illinois legislature puts a law in place basically saying that anyone who makes a donation, a political donation in the state of Illinois, as of just January 1st, can no longer have a contract with the state of Illinois, which seems like such a sensible thing. Right?
Yeah.
We don't want the guy who's like, painting the fire hydrants or drawing the lines in the middle of the highway to get
the big bridge reconstruction job.
To get a contract because they made a political contribution.
And some of these contracts are hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
I mean, when you're talking about building a new roadway or something like that, I mean, this is big money.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And so that was in the fall and before Obama was elected president.
Right.
And so
Obama was a Chicago guy, wasn't he?
We're getting there. But yeah, Obama was the junior senator from the state of Illinois, from Chicago.
Right.
It came up through Chicago politics. But he was our U.S. senator, one of 2. And so this law is coming down the pipeline, and we get word that Blagojevich has basically stood up a war room to shake down contractors for one last big donation before it becomes illegal for them to donate on January 1st. It was because of that, this kind of shakedown that was going to be happening, that we were able to go up on his home phone where he did a lot of his work, and his office phone, and with a microphone in there. And so we had this war room set up to listen to him shaking down contractors. As soon as we flip the switch on, we find that he's not necessarily doing a whole lot of that. There's some of that. But what he's really doing is discussing the likelihood that Barack Obama is going to win the presidential election. And then which would mean that that it creates a vacancy in the Senate. Right? So now there's an empty Senate seat. There's not going to be a senator representing Illinois.
Doesn't the governor appoint that?
That's exactly it. So the governor would get to appoint an interim senator until the next senatorial election happens. And Blagojevich started thinking, and what he said was, I got this thing. It's golden. How can he monetize this for himself?
And being a U.S. senator, that is a fucking slinging dick job.
And there were a lot of people out there who wanted that job.
Right.
And Blagojevich wanted to see what he could get for that. And so there was a lot of hand wringing. There was a lot of, who should I? He was talking to people on the phone all day long about basically selling Barack Obama's Senate seat. How much could he get for it? And he dispatched his brother to talk to some people who were working with Jesse Jackson Jr.'s campaign to see how much money they could get for it. And then those of us on the team had some meetings together and thought, okay, well, what are we going to do? This guy's on the verge of selling the Senate seat. He's speaking about it very openly.
You have it on tape.
Dead to rights.
Is it as blatant as, hey, how much you willing to give me? I mean, is it?
It's not that blatant, but he's tasking his brother to find out how much he could get from this one kind of group of Jesse Jackson Jr. supporters. But he's discussing that he's got this thing, it's golden, and he's vacillating between making some sort of political deal, which would be perfectly legal, versus taking a deal for money.
Right. So the political side of it, had he cut a political deal,
nothing wrong with that. That's politics.
That's politics.
Right. But naming someone the senator because they're willing to bring you a giant bag of cash is not legal.
Exactly. Not even $1.
So those of us on the team, and again, this decision's being made way above my pay grade, but I like to say I was in the room as the discussions were happening. Do we allow this to happen? Do we allow it? Which would be better for the case, right? If he named somebody the senator in exchange for a bribe, that would be really good for the case. But what happens with the state of Illinois? Because he will have named somebody the senator, And then the Illinois would have a corrupt senator on their hands while the FBI is sitting there watching this unfold.
And knew it was going to happen.
And did nothing to stop that from happening. This constitutional crisis, Bubba.
Right.
Or do we pull the plug on it and use the evidence we had gathered by arresting him and stopping him before he can make a corrupt appointment? And the decision was made and has since been criticized to arrest the governor in before he made the appointment. Arrested the governor, big news in Chicago. This was after Barack Obama had already been elected at this point. This is November, but before he had assumed office and before the inauguration. And so Blagojevich gets arrested, takes it to trial. And first trial had one holdout juror. It was a hung jury. And the second trial, the entire jury came back guilty. So he was tried twice for the same crime. First one was hung because of one holdout, and the second one found guilty.
The guy I had on earlier today was talking about exactly what you talked about and how the federal government never loses the second trial because they put every resource they have to engineer and to look at that trial as to what might have gone. And he said, and it's amazing that we're talking about the same subject matter, but he was like, we're talking about John Gotti and how Gotti was 3-1.
Yeah.
And the state of New York would continue to go, or whatever agency was going out. I think it was Giuliani was going. And so when they would get a hung jury, they would try to absolutely infiltrate the jury and to find out where they lost it. And he said, they would never lose this. Most states or agencies will never lose the second one because they put so much time and resources into what went wrong. Yeah. Where do we mess it up at?
Right. But here's where it gets interesting in my mind. This is like one of these things where who knew that this would happen? Blagojevich, everyone talked about how stupid he was. I don't think Blagojevich was stupid at all. He was a smart guy and he was a charming guy, but he had been corrupted by the disgusting Illinois politics. That's my opinion. Like, this guy did not come into politics for all the wrong reasons. I think he came into politics for all the right reasons. I mean, he was a smart guy, went to Pepperdine Law School. Anyway, so during this window of time, after he has been charged with this crime and removed from office, but before his trial, he needs money. So he does something which everyone made fun of at the time as being stupid and goofy, but ended up being incredibly astute. He goes on a game show. That game show was called The Apprentice, with a game show host named Donald Trump. He goes on that show and performs very well. Yes, Mr. Trump, no, Mr. Trump. He eventually is found guilty, gets sentenced to an astronomical amount of time. Was it 17, 18 years? You can fact check me that. It was a long window of time. And goes away to prison. During that window of time, while he was in prison, serving his time, being a model prisoner, that game show host, Donald Trump, gets elected to be president of the United States. And whether you like Trump or you dislike Trump, and I'm ambivalent on the subject myself, one thing that we can all agree upon is that Trump rewards loyalty. If someone was good to Trump, currently or historically, Trump will be good to you. And so the people reached out for Trump, said, remember that governor who got himself in trouble? And Trump commuted his sentence and let him out of prison.
Now, what was Obama's stance on this when this was all going down? Did you have to keep him in the loop because he's getting ready to be the next?
Not at all. He did not receive any briefings or anything like that. And Obama was he was clean on the whole thing. He was never caught on the recording.
No, I wasn't insinuating that.
No, but people do. People do. People talk about that. There's a lot of misunderstanding.
He didn't have anything to do with it.
No, he was embarrassed by the whole thing. This is his party. In fact, it kind of cast a shadow over this kind of very prideful victory that Chicago was experiencing at the time, that the governor kind of stepped on his own schlong while the city was celebrating their native son becoming president. I will say that Obama's Rahm Emanuel, who was
ended up being the mayor of Chicago,
but he was also chief of staff for the beginning of the Obama term. He was on the phone with Blagojevich at one point, and he said one thing. He goes, "The only thing I need you to do, Rod, is appoint somebody who can hold the seat at the next election, because we have a very narrow margin in the Senate. We don't want to lose that because that's what's going to pass it. So whoever you appoint, make sure he can hold the seat."
That's political talk.
It's solid advice.
That's as long as you're not talking about dollars and cents, you're solid. You do what's right for the party. You put somebody in there that's going to hold the seat. The guy I had in here, the New York PD, said, we were talking about Rudy Giuliani
Mm-hmm.
and how Rudy Giuliani is the guy that cleaned up New York, turned Times Square from peep shows
Yeah.
and heroin dens into corporate America, M&M stores, stuff like that. And that it started with Mayor Giuliani, and that New York historically has always been blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's as blue as Chicago is.
Yeah.
But finally, the people in New York got so fed up with the left-leaning, somewhat woke politics that it took a guy like Giuliani to come in there and clean it up,
Mm-hmm.
and he did really well.
Yeah.
And I almost think that Chicago needs something like that. I mean, I almost think that that Chicago needs and let's take politics, let's take R&D out of it.
Yeah.
And just say somebody to come in, and if you remember, I think stop and frisk has been deemed illegal now. It's illegal to stop and frisk with no probability,
Yeah.
But Mayor Giuliani, his policy was walk through Times Square and start stopping and frisking.
Mm.
And that's how you get the drug dealers and the hookers and the pimps and all those people off and out of there, if they will. And I almost think that Chicago, regardless of political affiliation, needs somebody like that to clean up Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly an argument for that. I'm frustrated with politics that mayor is just such a managerial job.
Yeah.
Can you make the buses run on times? Can you remove the snow? Can you get a public schools that work? I don't think that party should really even be in the mix as far as who the mayor is, but it seems to be a preoccupation of everyone.
Here's the most important thing a mayor does,
Mm-hmm.
and that's who they appoint as their police chief and how they direct that police chief to govern.
Sure.
Meaning, like, are we strict?
Mm-hmm.
Are we not? Are we going to be like San Francisco? And if it's a $990 crime, it's not. We're not going to go worry about it. It has to be over $1,000 threshold for us to prosecute.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think so many cities are broken right now because we're not tough on crime.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think we're tough on crime in some cities. I mean, go down to Polk County and mess with Grady Judd, and I mean, you're not. I mean, he'll
Yeah.
So I just feel that Minneapolis is an absolute shit show right now.
It is.
I mean, and I feel for that agent. I feel for that agent that I feel for him. I mean, she obviously had put the car in drive. Did he sidestep her? Yeah. Can you fire 2 rounds when she's no longer a threat? Yeah, I guess probably once she's initiated the.
I don't think that's true, Bubba. I don't think that's true within the Department of Homeland Security's deadly force policy. I mean, just factually.
Right.
Is
that guy facing anything?
Well, probably not, because this thing is so mired in politics now. Everybody's instead of actually having a proper shooting investigation and understanding what was going through his mind at the time, which is all that matters.
Right.
And it's become,
it's been so convoluted.
Right, exactly. You got the Minnesota politicians wanting this guy's head on a spike, and you have the Trump administration, before they even knew what the facts were,
clearing the guy,
which isn't the way it should ever work, right?
Right.
I've been in the peripheral of federal agent shootings before, and in the investigations that happen, everything should go silent. There should be a shooting review team come out of independent people who kind of take a look at the facts and circumstances, interview the witnesses, take a look at the video, and then make a determination based on one thing and one thing only. Was this a shot? Were these shots taken in accordance with the agency's deadly force policy? I think that, there's very specific rules about people using a vehicle as a weapon. If you think you can stop them by you don't ever shoot a car, but you can certainly shoot into a car to stop a threat that's coming at you. And so that explains maybe his first shot. How many shots did this guy take?
3.
When she was driving away, the only time you can shoot a fleeing felon is if you believe they are going to be going to a position of cover to then attack you or someone else again. And I don't think there's a good argument for shots 2 and 3. Now, does that mean he should go to prison for murder? No, but I'm saying that's 2 different things about whether he is a murderer versus whether this was a shooting that is what they call a good shoot in accordance with any law enforcement agency's deadly force policy.
And I think that you nailed it in the fact that we can't even investigate this thing thoroughly or even fairly because it's mired in political shit.
Right,
if
he's
you
become
will.
an avatar for all law enforcement during the Trump's administration, which is unfair to him. Can I close out the Blagojevich case with 2 points?
Oh, please. Because I'm sorry for getting...
No, it's okay. No, wait, this is a useful conversation for us both. There's been a lot of criticism and rumors and urban legends that now Governor Pritzker of Illinois was caught on the Blagojevich wire, and that's true. However, he did nothing inappropriate on that wire. I listened to every single phone call coming into the wire. He wasn't even in politics at the time. He was kind of a political gadfly. He was, a very wealthy, from a wealthy local family, successful businessman. And he would just and Blagojevich bounced ideas off of him. I think, Pritzker was probably a very big Democratic Party donor, and now he's the governor. But he did nothing improper on the wire itself.
Because had he, trust me, you guys were out for blood.
Right, and he was not lobbying that he should be made the senator. There were rumors of that as well. And I don't recall any conversation like that. It would have been a ridiculous appointment because he wasn't in politics at the time.
Is that a two-sided deal where Blagojevich, he's in trouble for selling this seat or trying to sell the seat?
Mm-hmm.
Are you equally in trouble for trying to buy the seat?
Yes, but there were so many intermediaries between Jesse Jackson Jr. and Blagojevich trying to strike that deal, that it was never really clear. Jesse Jackson Jr. ended up going to prison for other crimes.
In your opinion, because you guys shot it down before it happened,
yeah,
do you have an opinion as to who might have got it?
Oh, I think Jesse Jackson Jr. was going to get it.
Oh, he was going to get it.
Because his people were going to give a ton of money to Rod Blagojevich's brother.
Was there ever on tape or part of public info or FOIA request, was there ever a number on the tape? Were there numbers ever discussed?
There were. I'm sitting here right now. I don't recall. I think they were soliciting offers at the time. The one thing I also want to add, though, which is sort of the real epilogue to the story, is Blagojevich gets out, because he had his sentence commuted, and he goes on with his life in Illinois, kind of as a political pundit, trying to rebuild his life. And he got out 6-7 years before he would have otherwise, which is significant.
I think he did 6 or 7.
He did probably more than that, and then in the beginning of the second Trump presidency, Trump pardoned him, which is different than a commutation. And
commutation means
you're still guilty. You're still a convicted felon, but you just no longer have to serve the rest of your prison sentence. The pardon means that the felony is off your shoulders. It's as if it never happened. And I'm sure the people who investigated that case, along with me, have very strong feelings about whether that was appropriate or not. But I have a different take on it. One, I feel that Blagojevich got an incredibly harsh sentence for a non-violent crime. I think the judge was looking to make an example of him, but that's neither here nor there to me. I don't have to serve the time.
Now, was that a federal judge that made? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Be interesting
federal
to
case,
see.
Federal judge.
A lot of times, that the way things work federally is who appointed that federal judge and who.
I don't think there was any chicanery going on there.
Not chicanery, but it.
I think the judge who sat through the trial twice was disgusted by the governor's behavior, and because he had to just see all that. There was other stuff going on where he's shaking down Children's Hospital for money in exchange. It was just really
not a good look.
Bad stuff. And but I would also say that I'm a system guy. Like I work within the system. I work within the laws. The president can pardon whomever he wants for whatever reason he wants.
That's a power that's been given to him.
Exactly. It's in the Constitution. If I was inventing a country from scratch, would I give that power to the executive? No, but no one asked me back when they were writing the Constitution.
Is that part of the Constitution?
Absolutely. It's kind of a leftover from the monarchy.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so we were a monarchy. We were underneath England.
Right.
And
so we wanted to throw a little monarchy in there to make it feel good still.
Right. And so I don't like the pardon power, but it exists. I took an oath to defend the Constitution. The President of the United States is allowed to commute sentences and pardon people. So I spend zero time complaining about it and zero time, I burn no calories over Trump's decision. I also, Blagojevich, his Wikipedia page will stay with him forever, regardless of what the president does.
What is he doing nowadays?
I think he's like a commentator on maybe like WGN or one of the local stations because he knows his way around Illinois politics.
I always thought that he was pretty well, like people liked him.
I don't think he was popular. I don't know what his approval ratings were. He used to do a lot of man of the people type stuff. Like he sort of declared that buses were going to be free for senior citizens at a time where the CTA was having a lot of trouble, like kind of earning enough money to stay afloat.
Right.
So there were things like that he did, but he was also rather stymied because he was in constant war with Madigan. who is the kind of, I guess, the Speaker of the Illinois House,
Right?
Kind of a senior muckety muck, and his daughter, whose daughter Lisa Madigan was the Attorney General for the state of Illinois.
Now, did Blagojevich, did he have any other political aspirations?
Well, he wanted to be president without question.
Realistically, that would have been usually that you go governor, senator. That's usually like which I do not care for this guy at all. Rick Scott, I despise that guy. I can't. You're familiar with Rick Scott?
I know the name. I don't know much about him.
He's a senator from.
Yeah, I know who he
was.
is,
A two-term. You obviously live in
he had a
Jacksonville.
Medicare issue, didn't he? Was he a Medicare guy?
He has the highest single fine in the history of our country. He got fined for Medicare and Medicaid fraud. He owned a group of hospitals, and he has the largest single fine in the history of our country. And he was able to buy his way to a two-term governorship, then buy his way into the Senate. And he disgusts me. He absolutely disgusts me. But that's the progression. He's probably has aspirations of being, it's the natural progression: governor, senator, and then if you were going to make a run at the president, like Barack Obama. He started out as a senator. He wasn't the governor, but usually senators make good presidential candidates. And so I bet you
every senator thinks they're destined to be the president.
The Blagojevich, whatever the hell, that should have been. He should have appointed him. He couldn't, but in the natural progression of things, that should have been his seat if he really wanted to be. I knew that he couldn't appoint himself.
Well, I think constitutionally he could have.
He could have.
That would have just created a vacancy, and I guess the lieutenant governor at that point would have stepped up and become governor.
And I don't think that would have been illegal.
It would not have been illegal. It would have been kind of tacky.
Yeah, but tack doesn't put you in prison.
I get it.
Being untapped, right?
Right.
He would have he'd be a free man.
There's 1,000 things he could have done. I'm sure if he had a time machine, he would have done it all very differently.
Now, when you got a wiretap on a guy,
yeah,
and you first bring a guy in, did procedurally did it go just like he was a Joe P. citizen where you went and arrested, or were things a little bit?
Nope, he was arrested at 5 a.m, just like everyone else is.
At his home, the governor's mansion?
Well, that's what's interesting. There's a funny little thing. He hated Springfield for a lot of good reasons. And so he did not live in the governor's mansion in Springfield. Everything, he basically worked out of his house in Ravenswood. And so...
is that a suburb of Chicago?
Yeah, no, it's in Chicago. No, it's a neighborhood in Chicago, a little north of
Wrigleyville.
A little northwest of Wrigleyville.
Okay,
call it.
yeah.
And so he was working in a modest house, like a bungalow. No, he wasn't. I don't think he was a particularly wealthy guy. But the problem is this: had he been doing all this in Springfield, much smaller FBI office, way less aggressive U.S. Attorney's office. I don't know that it would have turned out the same for him. I think remaining in Chicago and governing from Chicago, big city, very muscular U.S. attorney at the time, FBI office full of young, hungry people who wanted to make big cases. I don't think that played to his advantage.
Now, did he have any inkling at all?
Yes, he had heard that one of his a lobbyist who he liked and trusted may have been cooperating with the government.
And boy, when you're catching that wind, the ship's already sailed. If that's gotten back to you,
right.
So
I was not there for his arrest because what was happening is at that same time we were doing simultaneous interviews of people in his inner circle and people who were important to talk to. And so at 5 o'clock in the morning, we came over the radio. We got him, and then we were all staged at different people's houses to knock on the doors and talk to them to try to extract information from them before they would lawyer up.
Did you guys go to his office and have to get any files? Or
it's a good question. I don't remember if we did a search warrant or not. I don't believe we did.
But you really, all you got to do is hit play.
That's pretty much what the trial was.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you guys were interviewing him, he's lawyered up, obviously. Since that's evidence, they have the right to know, procedurally.
Yeah, so what happens is then we end up, it's all digital at the time, we end up giving the defense attorneys a series of DVDs with 3,000 phone calls on it.
Right.
And then they also get our call logs where me and the other guys are summarizing every call that comes in and every conversation that gets.
Did he he didn't take a plea. He went to trial twice.
He went to trial twice. Yeah.
And second time they found him guilty.
Yes.
And then at that point, he's at the mercy of
the judge to come up with a sentence.
With a sentence.
Yeah.
And he got, I think he was sentenced to like 23 years or something.
It was a lot. I just don't want to quote the number because it's something I should know, but I just don't recall. Again, once the conviction happens, and also by that point I was sort of I had one foot out the door to go to Hawaii. The actual case agents, because again, I was just unskilled labor handling the wiretap. They had the actual case agents out there kind of shepherding this thing through. Now,
were you guys wiretapping old school, like where there's a white van sitting outside the because you know the movies how they got the white van and they got Tom Simon there with his headphones and then turns to the guy and go, oh man, we got this one.
That's some 1960s shit.
That's some 1960s shit.
No, the way it works is a wiretap order signed by a judge is really an order directing the phone company to
plug in
to run a wire to the FBI wiretap room.
Right.
And so that's kind of how it plays out. And so, Verizon
and the quality is probably exceptional. Like
it's the same.
Like back when you would listen to the when they were getting John Gotti and they had the fuzzy they had microphones put up in light bulbs and things like that, and it was like your guys' was probably crystal.
We're hearing the same thing that he's hearing,
crystal clear, right?
There's no degradation in the quality of the recording. If he's in a bad cell spot on his cell phone.
Right,
it's going to sound like shit to him. It's going to sound like shit to us.
And so, was there, ever a point that he considered? I mean, I can't understand how the first one got hung.
Well, again, it was one juror, and God bless her, she voted her conscience. Felt that the government had not risen to its burden of proof, and that's fine. If that's what she truly believed. She did the right thing. She was criticized by a lot of people. Who wanted to see Blagojevich found guilty, and hell, we all wanted to see him found guilty because we believe he was guilty. But if one juror believes that the government had not done its job, she did the right thing.
You literally, as that juror, you can literally hold the fuck out, can't you?
She can, and she did, and it's got to be. It's just a tremendous act of bravery for any single juror to go against the other 11 people in the room who are probably very irritated with that one person.
Right.
I've never served in a jury, but I can only imagine what that must be like.
And second one
was a clean sweep.
Slam dunk.
All 12 jurors saw it the government's way.
Would the government have maybe gone to him after the first hung and said, Rod, listen, we had one holdout. We won't have a second one. We promise you. We have our. Let's cut a deal.
That would happen between the attorneys. I don't know what the plea negotiations look like.
I don't know why he didn't cut a deal. Probably would have been far. Well, because he wanted to be complete. Because he wanted to be innocent. But you can't fight spoken word recorded tape. You can't fight it.
Well, he continues to maintain his innocence to this day.
Under what?
I didn't watch his episode of Joe Rogan when he was on it, but I'm told he maintained his innocence.
You're such a smart ass.
I didn't know he was on Rogan.
No, I know, but
I didn't watch the episode.
You know what his defense is, obviously.
I think his best defense is that it never happened. Is that I think the defense at trial was a lot. There was a lot of talk, and that's not a crazy defense, right? That he was bandying about a lot of different ideas, and nothing came to fruition. Therefore, no crime was committed. It's not a bad argument.
So really, it's not a bad argument. It might have even hurt you guys by not letting him appoint.
I think there's a good argument to be made that we took the case down too early, but I also think that our obligation is also to the system writ large to not have a corrupt senator sitting there in Washington, D.C.
True. And at the end of the day, you won the case.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So, and it's just straight white trash mentality, okay? And so I can call myself that. So my buddy, what did we do? We thought the feds were. I forget what I did. What trouble I got into, or I've only been in trouble criminally one time, and that was the hog deal. But I can't remember why I thought my phone was being tapped.
Okay,
but I thought it was.
Sure.
So my buddy, who really is very well read, but he's not law enforcement. He was my executive producer at the time.
Okay.
Brent Hatley, and he goes, listen, there's a rule with any local agency or federal agency that if they're listening to your phone and you threaten to kill somebody, that they have to. This is us. You have to understand. We're just we're dumb, okay? But they have.
These are like the douchebags who believe that if you ask a cop if he's undercover,
right.
he has to tell you.
We're being douchebags. And so he goes, so if they're obligated that if you threaten somebody's life over the phone and they're taping and they're listening to you, they have to make contact with that guy and let him be known that it's been discussed that he could be potentially at risk. There may be some truth to that, and
I don't think it's a law as much as it's a practicality,
right?
But you also need to assess the likelihood of this happening. It has to be a credible.
It can't
threat.
be a couple fucking DJs, you know. So,
right.
Like if we were part of the Gambino crime family and we had established that, we've killed people, but we're just a couple fucking DJs.
Right.
So I go, okay, Brent. So I'm gonna call you tomorrow at noon, and we had a common friend named Coco. Okay, and he was a really, really great friend. I said, they're tapping my phone, not your phone. So you call Coco up and tell him that we're not going to do this. We're not killing him.
Uh-huh.
So we're so fucking stupid. So I call Brent up because I think I think they're laying on my phone.
Yeah.
So I want to prove that they're not. So I call Brent up and I go, Brent, fucking Coco, I'm over his bullshit. I caught him fucking talking to this chick that I've been dating, and I'm fucking over his bullshit. And you know what? Tomorrow at about 2:00, can I come pick you up? I'm gonna put a bullet in his head. I'm gonna fucking kill Coco tomorrow at 2:00. Jeff Linton, you're mine. I'm gonna fucking kill you. and I hung up. So then I drive to Brent's house, and Brent goes, now listen, if they're taping your phone, if they're wiretapping you, they have to call Jeff Linton Coco and let him know, or they're liable, for his death. Which
it's not a crazy theory.
I mean, it's a couple fucking radio douchebags that got we might have taken too many gummies that day. I don't know.
Exactly. The FBI agent needs to believe that the No Panties Tuesday guy is actually going to be going through with a murder.
So nothing happened, right? Nothing happened.
Shocking.
So 2:00 the next day, Coco. So we go over to Coco's house. We're like parked like a block away, to see, like, we're just, and of course they don't come. So then we decide, they're not taping our phone. And I really don't even know why I even thought they were taping my fucking phone. But I don't know, is that skewed mentality? I mean, I guess more than anything, it would probably be how credible are the people making the threat.
That's exactly it. So, I mean, in theory, I guess, the FBI can't just sit there idly if they truly believe that a crime of violence is going to happen, but they also need to kind of assess the credibility. But the original sin in your idea is the idea that anyone would take the time, any law enforcement agency would take the time to tap your phone.
Right.
And whatever nonsense you were involved in back then probably does not rise to the level of a Title III wiretap.
Yeah. I don't even know.
Yeah.
So we've gone so far down the path. I haven't gotten to the one question. We'll talk about you being undercover, and I know that you've gone undercover a few times,
sure.
and like disguises or just identity undercover.
Yeah, so I think, let me lay down the groundwork because everyone thinks about undercover work. I would say probably less than 10% of FBI agents are certified to go undercover.
So you have to be certified.
Yeah, so what happens is you apply to go, once you're an agent and you're out there working cases, you can apply to go to the FBI undercover school. And
it's literally called the undercover school.
Yeah, it's called the undercover school.
Right.
And there's a big screening process before you go, and very few agents make it. And then when you go there, it is 14 straight days, no weekend in between, of learning how to be undercover. And it is a lot of role playing, a lot of, and they put you through the ringer. It's the hardest, most miserable school I've ever been to. I hated every minute of it. I can't get into too many specifics about what they do, but they are setting you up for failure with every exercise you go through. You're getting your ass beat, etc. So when you
not physically,
yes. So when you actually go undercover for the first time in a non-training environment, you have been through a dozen or more situations where everything just goes to shit and you're on your knees begging for your life. And then when it doesn't in real life, then it's all kind of cool. And because you've been through the ringer, you're ready for it.
You probably appreciated it when you did go undercover.
Exactly.
It wasn't anything even close.
And no one is throwing me in the trunk of a car. Yeah.
It wasn't nearly as bad physically in every way, shape, or form of what you've been trained.
Mm-hmm.
And so the training probably actually was really
It was a great school,
thing,
but miserable.
I probably can't get into too many questions here because it's intellectual, you know.
Back in the old days, we had a criminal undercover school for criminal agents, and we had a national security undercover school. The criminal undercover school was brutal, and the national security undercover school was teaching somebody which fork to use at the state dinner.
Right. Which side were you on?
I was on the criminal side.
Which is the get your ass kicked side.
Yeah. And so, again, they bring in seasoned undercover agents to serve as role players and class counselors and instructors. And so you're being taught by the best people in America, like the guys from Donnie Brasco's generation.
Right.
He wasn't teaching my particular school, but Joe Pistone's colleagues were. And
so do they teach you any techniques about if you get exposed?
Yes.
Or like they teach you a technique. Okay, you just got.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of kind of psychological manipulation on how to build rapport with people, how to make people like you, how to create a legend for yourself where one day you were nowhere and now you're everywhere in this kind of group of people who might be doing this. So they kind of go through every single iteration down to how to get reimbursed for your expenses. And so it was just a really, really thorough school, and they do a great job. And as a result, I don't think anyone who has ever graduated from the FBI undercover school has ever been killed in the line of duty during an undercover assignment.
Which is a testament to their training.
Yeah, it's a great school. It's a great school, but I hated every minute of it.
Hated it, but now...
I hate it the way the Navy SEAL guys probably hated their, what do they call it, the SEER school.
One of my good friend's son... And you know how everybody's a Navy SEAL and everybody's a fucking Army Ranger.
No one was a sailor,
and
right?
Everybody's this and this. But one of my lawyer's sons went to the Naval Academy at West Point, and then actually was signed up to be or was picked to be a Navy SEAL candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And there was 86 guys that signed up for it, and they take them out to San Diego. And they whittle it down to 12, and he made it.
That's great.
He made it, and he said it was from my guy couldn't give me a lot of details because his son is very close to the chest, but he said it's like some of the most you'd be at 2 a.m, waist deep in 55-degree weather off the coast of San Diego, arm to arm as a human chain, and with a 60-pound backpack, and for 2.5 hours, and just waiting for a guy to fall out.
Yeah,
and
all that stuff, right? So you're hating it as it happens, but when you get through it, you're like, you feel like you've been like honed by the. You're sharp.
You feel like a fucking stud, kind of, don't you?
You feel like you're ready for anything the world would throw at you.
Isn't it like a major testosterone dump when you've gone through the hardest shit you can absolutely go through, and you did it?
Yeah, again, I don't want to overstate it. Especially when we're talking about military people who go through way harder experiences. Undercover school was very difficult for me. It was very challenging. There's a lot of sleep deprivation. There's a lot of kind of psychological abuse involved with it.
Now, is there a safe word where you can tap out at any time?
I'm trying to remember. I guess, yeah. I guess there probably was if you were truly in physical danger. But the instructors were excellent. Like they're not going to really hurt you.
They knew exactly how far to push.
Yeah, and they're making you a better agent as a result. And so again, when you go undercover, you're kind of ready for anything the world's going to throw at you.
So I know you had several. Your very first we don't have to get into the specifics because I don't want to.
I got 2 good undercover stories for you. One I can tell you. I lived undercover for a long, long time as someone else, and
not Tom Simon.
No, I had a different name, and so you always pick the same first name. That way, if you run into somebody and they, hey Tom, you got like a second to kind of clean up this mess.
Right.
My very first day doing anything undercover, I was in touch with some people on the internet, and I was going to be meeting them in the lobby of a hotel, and nice hotel. And so I'd been talking to these people online. We're going to be meeting. We're going to be getting into some shit together. And so I go into at the time I had, I was younger, so I didn't actually need glasses. And so I had fake glasses on. I had like real frames, like a Ray-Ban.
Well, let me see what you look like without your glasses.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'd never worn glasses
But your black
before.
horn rims are kind of your signature.
Right. So I just had like panes of glass there that had no prescription in them.
Right.
And I was kind of a street kid. That was sort of the idea. And so I was dirty. I was not very well kempt. You would never look at what I looked like on that day and think this guy's an FBI agent.
Right.
And in my mind, it was also kind of a Clark Kent Superman thing. I thought if I had the glasses on, I would look so radically different.
Sure.
So I get there and I'm sitting in the lobby of this hotel and I'm waiting for the dudes that I'm supposed to meet who are coming into town to meet with me. And at the time, in this city, there was a clown convention also happening. Literal clowns, like with the makeup and the horns and all that. And
which are creepy, by the way.
This might have been the first night of the clown convention. The entire lobby is filled with like clowns. I'm sitting there, looking like a punk rocker or whatever,
right? Waiting
for these dudes. The dudes come, I meet them, we sit down. We're having just a conversation, more of a get to know you type of thing. And there's clowns everywhere. This clown comes up to me and these guys, the targets of my investigation that I'd been kind of grooming online for a while. And the clown comes up to me, looks at my glasses, and goes, "Those glasses aren't real." And I pause and I go, "I'm sorry, what'd you say?" And the clown goes, "Those glasses you're wearing, they're not real glasses."
How the fuck would he know that?
And so I pause. It was a woman, and the clown. I pause. And I go, "Well, I don't have a very strong prescription, but it's definitely a prescription." And I was like, "Well, what's it to you?" And the clown looks at my glasses closer and goes, "Oh, they are so clean that I thought they were fake. Never mind." And then goes scampering off.
Fucking clown.
Oh, but that's exactly what I said. I looked. My balls were up into my belly at the time, and I look at the guys I'm with, and I go, "These fucking clowns." Anyway, like I was saying, and so I just kind of played it through. But what I had done is this. I wear glasses now. My glasses are all smudged and fingerprinted. These were virgin glasses. They had never been worn. They'd never been touched anybody.
The clown was very astute.
The clown was very astute. They looked like they were so clear. They looked like there was no glass in them whatsoever.
Right.
And that was a mistake I made on my very first. And if that clown had undone me somehow, or I lost my cool, or I didn't roll with it,
right.
And I got up and started sprinting away.
I think your excuse was fucking on the fly brilliant, where you said not a heavy, but a slight. I think that's what saved you.
Well, maybe,
that,
but eventually
that comeback is that's what a guy that had prescription glasses would say.
Thank heavens it was a clown mentioning this,
right? And not a guy that looked like an whatever the fuck, an eye doctor.
I'm glad it wasn't an optometrist convention there.
All right, wow.
So I
you know what? You've probably hated clowns ever since.
I give them a wide berth when we're walking.
Wow.
But I'll tell you about a full undercover case I did. We had a case. It was in Chicago.
Now hold on before we go.
Yeah.
Did you get the bad guys on that case?
Yeah. It's a little more complicated than that, and I still probably can't get into it.
No, just yes or no.
Yeah. Sure. Mission accomplished.
Right.
They I lived among them for a long time and got the information I needed to extract from them. So
second undercover
case was much shorter in duration, but Chicago banks were getting burned by what they call counterfeit on us checks. And what that means is that before there was Chase Bank, there was Bank One, and before there was Bank One, there was First National Bank of Chicago, First Chicago Bank, big bank, local bank in Chicago. They were getting tons and tons of counterfeit checks being presented at their banks that written on account holders' accounts, and being brought in by people who were not account holders seeking to cash it. Does that make sense? Cash the checks.
Yeah.
But it turns out the checks were counterfeit. But the routing numbers, the account numbers, and the signatures of the on the signature card were perfect. They looked absolutely perfect. And so First Chicago Bank was just very confused about how this was how this was happening. The individuals who were cashing the checks were not account holders, but the banks had extended the courtesy
but the accounts were drawn from that bank.
Bingo.
But they just weren't being cashed by the account holders. They were being cashed by non-account holders.
Independent third parties.
Sure.
Right. Like I hire a day laborer, I write him a check, he goes to my bank to cash
Which
that
isn't
check.
really uncommon.
Not uncommon, but they were so many, like hundreds of thousands of dollars in counterfeit checks. And so we began taking
How
a
many?
look. Hundreds of thousands. Like every check was like 1,500 here, 2,000 there. But like it was like every couple of days there'd be like 15 of them coming from different banks on the northwest side of Chicago, mostly up in like Winnetka and stuff. And so we did a study and we figured out that the individuals who were cashing these checks were all homeless people living at the Pacific Garden Missions in downtown Chicago, one of the largest homeless shelters in America. It's certainly the largest in Chicago. And there was one guy, and so we grab a couple of these homeless guys, bring them in for questioning, and they say, I don't know what to tell you. I was recruited by Fat Joe, and then they put me in a car with a guy who drove me around to cash these checks. And so we go and we grab, and so I said, who's Fat Joe? And they go, he's a guy who lives in the homeless shelter with us, but what he does is he organizes the homeless people to stand in line to get tickets. Remember back in the days before Ticketmaster online?
Oh yeah.
You
had to stand in line to go see Van Halen,
Springsteen, or whatever, right?
Right.
And so the first 200 people in line were homeless people from the Pacific Gardens Missions,
and he'd pay them.
And he was working for the ticket brokers. They would stand in line. He would give them each enough money to buy 8 tickets or whatever the maximum was, all the way down the line. And so the first 50 rows of the Bruce Springsteen or Van Halen concert are
now controlled by Fat Joe.
Or
his broker.
Who was working for a ticket broker.
Right.
He was just organizing.
Right.
And so we bring Fat Joe, we bring him in, we squeeze him, and he tells us that, listen, okay. He goes, here's what I know. There's a guy named Ali, Arab guy. And what he does is he has me bring in homeless people. Fat Joe's telling us this. And then he puts them in the car, and then they have to have ID on them. And then he gives them these checks. And then he drives them around like a school bus from bank to bank to bank, cashing these checks. And the homeless people that I recruit get like a couple $100, and Ali gets the rest. And it's a good day's work for these homeless people. They don't need to stick anyone up.
That's a lot of money for them.
Yeah. And I go, Fat Joe, you got a problem here, man. I mean, this is a scam. He's like, all right, yeah. And I go, here's the thing. I want you to introduce me as a homeless person to Ali. And he's like, well, you don't look like a homeless person.
Not at all.
You look like an accountant. And I go, give me a couple of days. I can dirty myself up.
So do you grow your shit out?
I grew my shit out as much as I could. I don't get a very thick beard.
Yeah, but even a scraggly deal looks even better.
Yeah. And dressing poorly was not a real challenge for me. I'm able to do that fairly well. And, and don't shower for a few days.
Right.
And so I said, well, and I gave him the backstory that I'm a recovering pill addict. I used to have a white collar job, and now I'm in the homeless shelter because pills. And now I've been clean for a few weeks or whatever. And he goes, listen, I'm not going to have trouble selling you to this Ali guy because he really, really wants white homeless people, and we don't have a lot of those at the Pacific Garden Mission. So he sets up a meeting with me, Ali, and him. We meet underneath the tracks at Wells and on Wells Street and like in the South Loop, kind of near the Metropolitan Correctional Center.
Yeah.
In South Wells. And meet him is a little Arab guy. He goes, do you have ID? I give him my ID.
Now this is your undercover
my
ID.
Fake ID.
Yeah. Tom
Peters.
Tom McGillicuddy.
Tom Peters, I think it was at the time. And so. And he goes, here's how it works. You will go, I will take you around. We will drive from bank to bank. I will give you a check. You go in, you cash the check, and then you come out with the money. No one has a problem. It's going to be just fine. Will you be ready to go tomorrow? I go, yeah, I'll be ready to go tomorrow. And so I was going to be the only guy that day. And so I had given him my ID. He wrote down the information on it. The next day, he picks me up in the same spot. It's just he and I. What he doesn't know is that there's a full surveillance team of FBI agents following me as he's driving me around.
That's the white van story.
Yeah. And so many agents were supporting me because, again, we don't really even know who this guy is.
We don't know that Ali's armed. We don't know that,
we hadn't even really properly identified him beyond the license plates. And I think that came back to a different guy. And so we're driving, and he goes, "What is your story?" And so I was telling him that I'm trying to earn some money to get to give to my baby mama so I can get some time with my kid. I've been clean for a little bit. I've been clean for a while, and I'm just kind of acting like a pillhead. And he takes me to McDonald's, goes to the drive-thru, asks if I want breakfast. I go, no, I ate at the shelter. I'm good. And so we get to the first bank. It's up on the northwest side, like Niles, maybe.
Yeah.
And so we get to the bank, and he turns around and faces me. He goes, okay, Tom, here's the thing. You're going to go into the bank. You're going to cash this check. And he goes, you're going to have your own identification. The check is made out to you. It is not a problem. You're going to be so nervous. You're going to walk into the bank, and you're going to think, They know. They know. I want you to know they do not know. And then he reaches behind the seat and pulls out something. And then he sprays me in the face. And I thought it was going to be pepper spray or something. I thought I was getting rolled. He was spraying me with cologne because he thought I smelled bad and he wanted me to put my best foot forward.
Like the cologne I gave you today.
Yeah, I'm sure it smelled a little better than the Bubba cologne.
Just a tad.
No, the Bubba cologne's amazing. And so I go in the bank, and I am truly nervous, even though I'm an FBI agent. The bank has no idea
Here's
we're
what I
doing
don't understand.
this.
How the fuck can you be... You're on the right side of this, Tom's Jones, whatever the fuck your name is.
Yeah.
But you're still nervous because...
I'm nervous because one, I got a guy out there who's expecting me to get this right. Two, we haven't clued the bank into this. I am literally ripping off these banks.
Right.
We're gonna make it whole at the end.
Sure.
And I go in, I present the check to the lady. She goes, "Do you have an account here?" I go, "No." And she takes a look. She's clearly looking at a computer screen, comparing the signature, the account number, and all that. It all matches up. She counts out $3,186 to me, hands it to me. And I say, "Thank you." I turn around on my heels. I walk out. I hand him the money.
$3,186.
We must have done this 10 to 12 times that day, going from bank to bank to bank, with me ripping off these banks every step of the way.
And how long had he been doing it outside of your world?
Oh my! Well, he used to fill his
van.
His SUV filled with homeless people, sending them into various banks. This day, because he found this great cash cow, the white homeless guy.
Right.
He knew it'd be way easier, and there wouldn't be any questioning because of white privilege.
Right. Sure.
And so as we're driving, he drove. I remember he drove like a maniac. He would be going down like residential streets in Chicago at like 70 miles an hour with like these.
And you got the boys following you, right?
Yeah, the agents are trying to keep up with us. And every now and then he would ask me to grab onto the steering wheel and steer while he was driving, and he was snorting heroin while we were driving. And I thought, he's going to kill someone. It was the closest I've ever come to death, because I'm a white-collar crime investigator, right? I'm not getting involved in gunfights. So I thought I wasn't worried about him murdering me. I wasn't worried about...
You were about him vehicular manslaughter,
killing us both or someone else.
Right.
And so he kept complaining about a headache, which I think is some sign of heroin use. But
I'm sure.
He's snorting so much heroin, and I'm steering the car while he's driving like a lunatic. And we ripped off a ton of banks. And at the end of the day, he goes, "Where can I drop you off?" And I go, "There's a Blockbuster Video and a U-Haul at the Kennedy and North Avenue. I think it was North, might have been Division, right there." And I go, "My baby mama works at the storage at the U-Haul place, but drop me off like behind the Blockbuster. I want to go in and get a DVD for my kid and then bring it to my baby mama to sort of a gesture of good faith or whatever." And he's like, "Okay, cool." So we drive there, and this was predetermined. So I have him pull in like front of the dumpster, and he's like, "Can you do this tomorrow?" And I go, "Yeah." And he gives me like $400 or something like that. I'd ripped off damn near 30 grand at this point.
So you got $400 on 30 fucking grand.
Something like that. And or more or less. And he tells me, "Listen, I want you to invest in yourself. I want you to take this and go to Target and get a nice button-down shirt and get nice pants that fit you and take a shower and get some hair gel. And I want you to look normal tomorrow. Are you available? Can I meet you at 9 a.m. tomorrow at the same spot?" I go, yeah, okay. We shake hands. I open his door. I get out of the car and I start walking. I leave the car door open. He's like, Tom, close the door." And then the agents come out from behind the dumpster with the shotguns, put him in his face, and say, "You're under arrest."
Wow.
Yeah. Brought him in for questioning. And so the question then, which was kind of baffling us, is how did he get the signature facsimiles, the account numbers, and routing numbers? And so leaning on him, they brought me in to show him that he's sunk during the interrogation. Right. What he explained is he worked at a liquor store up on way north Milwaukee Avenue, up on the border. And his liquor store was more than happy to take checks from people who were driving home to the nice northwest suburbs of Chicago, and they wanted to buy a bottle of wine or a bottle of liquor. And so what happens when you give someone a check? You're giving them your account number, your routing number, the bank
and your
that you're
signature,
at, and a facsimile of your signature. He had a factory basically going on where he would make these checks using kind of check software, basically a laser printer, right, and check stock from like Staples or Office Depot or Office Max or whatever. And he would create these checks, and all he needed were homeless people who can be the payable to.
He just needed a warm body that could present themselves to the bank.
Yeah. So here's the real punchline to this story. So he gets charged. He's awaiting trial. While he's awaiting trial, he hires a hitman to murder the guy at the who ran the liquor store across the street. They were rival liquor stores, but the hitman that he hired was an undercover Chicago police officer.
Yeah, you know, they say, here's the thing. There's no really hitman out there. And so I you know, you watch Dateline, NBC, and you watch it all, and it's always like, even if you are talking to a person that's not a cop, they're going to call a cop.
Yeah, so he goes to prison for life.
So does he think that his rival liquor store guy turned him in?
No, he thinks that his rival liquor store guy is getting half the business that people driving up on North Milwaukee Avenue. This is a pure economic play for him. This is Macy's and Gimbels at war with each other.
Right. And so
no one gave a shit about my little check fraud case after when they were sending this guy away for life, and then
did he get life?
I guess something like that. He got some astronomical amount of time.
Did they ever determine how much he had? Did you guys ever forensically find out?
Yeah, I mean, it probably, you know, upwards in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And then I guess he would have to make restitution to
in
the
theory,
bank.
But I think what happened
can't.
is he served his time and then was probably deported back to Jordan or wherever he was from.
Right.
Yeah.
With the current ICE stuff that's going on, not that that's your agency, but you probably know protocol. If they get arrested here, let's just say in Minneapolis, and their only crime is they're illegal, do they just get shipped back? Or if they've committed a crime here, do they have to do their time here and then get shipped back? Or are we doing it like on the honor system where we get a hold of the country they're from and say, okay, they committed a homicide here and they have to do their time over there?
If you have a prison sentence to serve out for a crime you committed in the U.S., you serve out that prison sentence, and then you are deported back to your home nation.
Wow. So that means we may not be done with them, even though we rounded them up. If they've been convicted, I mean, if like Trump today on the news was showing all the people that they had rounded up in a Grady Judd type way, you know, and some of them were like, you know, capital sexual battery on a 12-year-old, you know, homicide. Now, I don't know if those were current charges or charges that they've had in their past.
Yeah, I don't know either.
You know, but I wouldn't think that, like, you know, if you have been convicted of homicide or you had homicide on your record, what are you doing rolling around here? Unless
I'm not sure how that works.
Unless that's where maybe they committed that crime abroad, and we were just saying that this is what they've done. You know. Yeah,
immigration law is a whole kettle of fish that I'm just not an expert on. I'd probably be speaking out of school. I mean, I've certainly arrested plenty of foreign nationals for fraud, put them in prison, and then they serve out their sentence, and then they get deported back to their home nations. That's very typical. That's happened dozens of times. The current environment, I'm just not in the mix on it. So,
how about your FBI surveillance story?
So we do a lot of surveillance at the FBI, and
isn't it boring?
It's boring. It's boring because you don't always have good intel on what that person's going to do that day, and so a lot of surveillance is you sort of sit there waiting for someone to get in a car while they're inside just watching Netflix. And so you spend 8 hours just kind of staring at a door that doesn't open. So people think surveillances are really fun and interesting and stuff like that. I hate surveillance, always did. But at least at the FBI, you had a surveillance team with, 8 cars or whatever. And so you're able to kind of work as a team. And when the guy starts moving, you're not just bumper locking him. You're keeping an eye on him, and then you're handing off the eye, as we say, to another agent in another car. So this guy doesn't see the same car kind of taking all these turns.
And then you pull off.
Yeah.
And
so
then
you
might
kind of get to the back of the rumba line there.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's
that's real surveillance.
It's the best case scenario for surveillance. As a private investigator, it's a whole different thing. But
now, do you have to do surveillance as a private eye?
You do whatever the client wants you to do and whatever gig you've taken. But let me tell you an FBI story first, because I'm convinced that most of the time that we spend kind of making sure that the bad guy isn't keeping an eye on us is probably just precautionary. Most people don't pay very close attention to their rearview
surroundings.
Some percentage of your audience right now is listening to our conversation in their vehicle. And I want them to think right now, without looking into your rearview mirror, can you tell what car is behind you right now? And I bet you most people can't.
Meaning, like, that means before we spoke those words, they would have had to have looked back there and got a little bit of a bearing as to who's back there.
And noticed it and paid attention and noted that it's the red Honda Civic. And maybe if you do know that it's a red Honda Civic behind you, how long has that vehicle been with you? Most people can't tell you that, and most bad guys can't tell you that.
And the other thing, what has made that even worse is the fact that now we're distracted with our phones and
Yeah.
in our Waze and our GPS.
There's so much entertainment in our cockpit of our vehicle.
Right. So that your awareness now goes
Right.
down on what you should be aware of.
Right. So here's a story that kind of illustrates that. We had a dirty prison guard in Hawaii named Mark. And what Mark was doing was he was taking bribes and he was smuggling meth and other illegal drugs into the prison. And so the girlfriend of the prisoner would meet him, give him the meth, and give him some money. He would bring it to the prisoner inside to use or distribute in the prison. Terrible situation, right? You don't want the prisoners to have illegal drugs inside a prison.
Right. That's huge currency for them.
And so we had a couple wives of inmates who were working as informants who had been kind of paying off Mark to smuggle stuff in. And so we needed to, and so we wanted to record one of those transactions to kind of get really solid evidence. So it's not just somebody telling us the story.
Right.
And Mark was a bodybuilder. And so I was on this again, not my case, but I was on the team of people who were investigating it. And so I'm on surveillance that day. Mark was a bodybuilder. So every day at like 9 in the morning till like 10:30, he would go to the Gold's Gym in Hawaii, on the windward side of Hawaii. And it was in a strip mall. And so I had the eye. My job was to sit there and watch the door to the Gold's Gym and report when he came out. And we were all going to follow him to this drug deal, which was going to be recorded. But we wanted to take him there to see if he was picking up anything along the way, and or what was, this is how surveillance works. And so I got the eye. The FBI has very powerful kind of walkie-talkie CB radio type things and encrypted. You could talk to each other. I turned off my vehicle to save gas and had it on so I can continue monitoring and talking to my team. But what I didn't understand at the time is that those very powerful CB radios drain the battery really fast. I mean, they're like a lot of wattage in those things. And so I'm sitting there waiting for Mark to come out to go to a drug deal. And I decided to start my car again, and my battery's just dead.
Completely
it's absolutely dead. I can't even get a hold of people on the radio anymore because the battery's dead. So I got the eye. I'm supposed to be watching it and calling it out when he gets there. And I'm like, out of my mind right now, trying to figure out what to do. I'm hopping on my cell phone. I'm calling other members of the surveillance team. No one's answering. No one has jumper cables. I finally call the office, and they're going to be sending backup out with jumper cables, or someone who driving it like they stole it to get there. And so as I'm sitting there with the hood up, just making sure in my car, who walks out of the Gold's Gym but Mark? He walks right up to me and says, "Hey, buddy, what's going on? You need a jump?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm waiting for my dad who's getting dialysis over at the dialysis center there." And
you're such a quick thinker.
And I must have run the battery down. I go, "I don't want to be any trouble to you." He goes, "No, man, I'll just pull the truck around." Nicest guy in the world, right? This prison guard. He drives his truck around, jump starts my car for me. Meanwhile, I'm hoping he doesn't look in my window where there's like a clipboard with his photo on it.
Right.
And then I go, "Dude, can I give you a couple bucks for it?" He goes, "No, just pay it forward to someone else." And good meeting you. We bump fists. He gets in his truck. I get in my car. I bring the hood down. I get on the radio.
And now you're still the eye.
And I follow him to a drug deal. He never even put it together. Never even looked in his rearview mirror. Then a week later, I'm doing a search warrant at the guy's house, going through his underwear drawer, looking for packets of money. He didn't even recognize me as the guy whose car he jumped a week earlier.
Talk about oblivious.
People don't pay that close attention to stuff. And so all the time we spend trying to be very slick on surveillance, 99 times out of 100, the bad guy wouldn't have noticed you anyway.
Right. And there are really, it almost shows you a little bit of the level of how bad of a guy they are if they do. Meaning like, you're dealing with a whole different level bad guy when a bad guy...
if they're trying to clean... If these guys are professional criminals, maybe they're or foreign intelligence agents who've been trained, they're cleaning themselves, they're driving around cul-de-sacs, they're pulling into parking lots, they're doing surveillance detection route.
Now, have you had any of that before where you're following a guy or some bad guys and they're pretty slick and, they do some of the tactics that you just mentioned?
Yeah, we had a case where... it's funny. Where we backed off this one guy, we put a tracker on his car. And so we were able to be like 2 miles away, like looking at our cell phones, watching him. And he would get into his car at night and just drive around, go into cul-de-sacs, do surveillance detection routes. to see if anyone was following him, but he never occurred to him to actually like check under his car.
That he had a gimmick on it.
Yeah. But and I remember there was a smart agent I worked with, and he said the wicked flee when none pursueth, basically meaning that no one's, as far as he knows, no one's actually following him, but he's still running these.
He didn't realize that you guys are doing he's doing all your work for you.
Yeah.
And you guys probably had technology like that. And, it's available now, geotags and things like that to the public. But you guys probably had that stuff way before it came to market.
Yeah, exactly. Before you could get it at the spy shop on the corner.
Yeah, you can't. Have you been to any of those spy shops?
Yeah, I've dug my head in there a couple of times.
Do they got any good shit?
I mean, it's a radio frequency detector is a radio frequency detector. Then and so you have that. You have the the voice operated recordings. You got the you have the trackers for the cars, which is illegal in the state of Florida, so no one should do it here. But they'll sell you the stuff.
Do they still got police scanners? Because my grandfather used to always sit by the police scanner.
My grandma was into that too.
And listen to it, and then you go over to his house. He goes, we were such a small town, so he'd be like, "Yeah, Mrs. Jones, police department was over to her house today at 4:00. There was." Somebody broke her window in the back of the garage, and then there was a brush fire out there at Country Club Road. The fire trucks got called about 4:00.
Okay, I had a buddy in high school in Washington, D.C. God, I can't believe I'm remembering this. Who had one, and he would bring his girlfriend, and they would, on a Saturday night for fun, they would listen to where the action was, and they would drive and just observe it. For them, it was like reality. It's like watching the show Cops. They'd show up at the 7-Eleven and see the cop busting somebody who got into a fight. Then they would drive down this. They would hear that there's something else interesting going on. There's a shooting here, and they would just kind of go and bear witness to all this police action in real time by following what was happening. Which would be fun. Scanner.
I mean, if you're not a cop and now, is that illegal?
Yeah, I think it was because you weren't allowed. This is the 80s. You weren't allowed to have a police scanner in your car.
Yeah, I think.
But I don't think the cops would have probable cause to search his car.
Right.
Because he just looked like another rubber.
If you're just an observer and you're not out there causing no trouble, and you're not trying to hinder or help the bad guy or hinder the investigation, and it's just you and your girl.
He wasn't an activist. He was just a rubbernecker.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Man, what a great. I want to get into probably my last story. And I played it on the air, and I just am absolutely blown away by your generosity. And you are absolutely cut from a whole different fabric than most people that I know. And that was your kidney story.
Oh, Jesus. You're going to make me cry, Bubba.
You're going to make me cry because you are one of the most selfless, nicest, generous.
We should probably set it up.
Well, I'm going to.
Okay.
But I watched that story, and I watched it again, and then I played it on the air, and I was just like, God, I like that guy just based on the interactions I've had with him. But now I really like him. I mean, what an absolute, people, did the Chicago media go crazy over that?
It was, I think it was a slow news week, and so there was some coverage, yeah.
They should have. And you should be commended by that. And so you tell the story. You tell it best.
So in 2007, I kind of made a decision that I wanted to donate one of my kidneys to someone who needed one. And I began looking into what does this entail to be a kidney donor. And I learned that it's a pretty commonplace surgery. It happens a lot.
I just had a very close person to my family go through it. And it was an older man. He's like 85, and his daughter was a match, and this is like a month ago.
And she was probably fine afterwards, right? Yeah, yes. As was I.
And he is no rejection so far. Good. It's been almost 2 months. Everybody's doing good. So they're really happy right now.
Right. So for all those reasons, and kind of seeing that it's not that risky, the surgery's done very commonplace. It's not that risky to the donor. Someone who a living donor of a kidney is no more likely to have kidney disease or kidney problems than a person who never donates a kidney. Because when kidneys go bad, Bubba, they go bad in pairs. Right? Okay. So the only risk then would be blunt force trauma, right? Like I would need to give up knife fighting.
Right. And, if you got shot in your kidney and you needed your other one to live.
Right. Exactly. And so the problem, though, is that I didn't know anyone who needed a kidney when I sort of made this decision because, again, the cost and your one remaining kidney when you're a donor literally swells in size to about 1.4, 1.5 times its size and does the work of 2 kidneys with no problem forever. And so the cost to the donor is actually very little. It's an inconvenience for a week or two while you're recovering from the surgery. The benefit to the recipient is that it changes their lives.
They get to live.
They get to live. They get off dialysis. They get to kind of live a normal life because dialysis sucks, right?
And a lot of times it's every day.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's got to clean your system, right?
Right.
The kidney's the filter. And so I didn't know anyone who needed a kidney. And at the time, now it's very common for strangers to meet on the internet. But in 2007, it wasn't.
Right.
There's a website out there called matchingdonors.com. It functions almost like a dating website where people who need a kidney, for the most part, sometimes a liver, but mostly a kidney, kind of put their story up there and say, so if you're a match. And so I originally went to Northwestern Hospital in Chicago, affiliated with Northwestern University. Said, I want to donate a kidney. I don't know anyone who needs it. I'd like to be a non-directed donor. And meaning you guys pick somebody on the list. And then I got home and I started thinking about that. I'm like, what if my kidney goes to like some asshole and
right, some bad guy,
or whatever, yeah, some child molester or whatever just happens to need a kidney whose name pops up, and so I'd like to have a little more control. So I hop on this website, I find out about matchingdonors.com. I'm taking a look at the profiles, and I see this woman named Brenda. Now Brenda Lagrimas, and so Brenda was a Filipina American, lived in Chicago. She worked for the local prosecutor's office as a kind of victim advocate. She was the one who would shepherd sexual abuse victims and through the court system as she'd be the one communicating with the victim witnesses and kind of being there for them, more of a social worker type than a law enforcement type, but she's working for the prosecutors. I could not have created a better profile of somebody that I would have hoped my kidney would have gone to had I done the random thing. And so I thought, well, why don't I just give this lady a call? So I call her. And one thing I guess you don't realize when you post on that site as someone who needs a kidney is that you think that the phone's never going to ring. But what happens is the phone rings 50 times a day, and every single one of those people is a scammer trying to sell you their kidneys, trying to get some immigration benefit, kind of, hey, fly me in from Nigeria and I'll give you my kidney. And so it took her a little. And so my first conversation is, listen, I want you to take a few minutes to kind of Google me and kind of get comfortable with who I am. But my name's Tom Simon. I'm an FBI special agent here in Chicago. I don't want this to be the worst job interview of your life. But if you need a kidney and we're a match with each other, I'd love to be able to help you out. And so we began kind of this conversation. And so she kind of does her due diligence on me and figures out that I'm not some scammer.
Well, she probably is relieved as much as you are. You found a non-scamming good person, but she also did too.
Oh yeah, no, she was really excited, but also I didn't want to put her in the situation where it's is like an audition for me, and
right.
I just felt weird about like show me that you're worthy or something like that. I said, listen, what I know about you, you seem like a good person. And so we began kind of going through so I go through my testing, she goes through her testing. There's a lot involved for the donor as far as making sure that my kidney is healthy and that, that it's mostly a blood type match these days. And so
I'm O positive.
I'm O negative, which makes me a universal donor. So anyone could have gotten my kidney.
Now, would my kidneys work with would an O, can an O? Nope.
No, I would need another O negative if I need a kidney.
Okay.
And so.
'Cause I'd give you mine if you want.
I'll keep that in mind, Bubba.
My kidneys kick ass, buddy. I don't drink alcohol. Your
liver must be worth a fortune then.
Yeah, but you only get one of those, right?
Yeah, but what happens? You can donate a lobe of your liver and it grows back. It's kind of a good deal. Yeah.
If my liver grows as fast as my waistline, I mean, they'll be in business.
It's a good way to lose weight. And Brenda was very funny. She had a really great sense of humor. So I used to joke about how this was a real testament to the lengths I would go to put my organ inside a woman, and she liked that joke. And so. So what? There's all sorts of interesting little things that happen when you. So they make sure. So we finally meet one day. She comes to the FBI. What happens is, I was a press spokesperson as a side hustle for the FBI in Chicago, as kind of a backup to the real guy. So I knew a lot of reporters. Some of the reporters caught wind that I was going to be taking some time off because I'm donating a kidney. They thought it would be an interesting story. So. So the local news comes out, Sun-Times, Tribune. And so it became big news because it was weird. Not so much that local hero does anything because there's no, I hate the idea of.
And that's not what you're looking for.
No, not at all. But the idea of somebody meeting a stranger on the internet in 2007 was something weird. And like, every now and then you heard of a guy who was internet dating, and he was like, wow, that's crazy. Who would meet a stranger on the internet? The idea of donating a kidney to a stranger on the internet.
That takes it to the next level.
Yeah, it was real weird. And so it got a lot of press, which was nice. And and what I liked about the press is that I spent every waking moment on there kind of dodging people telling me how wonderful I was and demystifying the idea of donating a kidney. So the day the donation comes, what they do is they remove my kidney first in one surgery, and then a different team installs that kidney inside of Brenda.
Now, is she, while you're in operating A, is she in operating B?
They will not start my surgery until she arrives at the hospital. And that's because what happens if she gets into a head-on collision and dies, and my kidney's sitting there in an igloo cooler.
It makes sense. So,
stuff you just don't even think about.
You don't even think about that,
right? And so,
so she gets there, and then
she gets there. We don't see each other before the surgery. I go to sleep. I wake up without a kidney. I say, my first thing I say is, "How's Brenda?" It's okay. It was and her surgery was happening at the time. Turned out it worked out fine. Eventually, we're in two different we're on the same floor, I think, but just different rooms. I go over to see her. She's like, as soon as the kidney goes in, it starts working. It starts working overtime, and it's great. She felt better than, even though she had abdominal surgery. It clears the mind. All these things that dialysis can't do. It's wiping the creatinine out of your system. It's just filtering everything.
It's working hard.
It's working great. Yeah, and it was a perfect surgery. She needs to go on anti-rejection drugs because she has this foreign kidney, which kind of creates sort of a dicey health situation for anyone who receives a kidney.
Plus, they probably put her on some antibiotics and things like that for infection.
Right.
Stuff
so
like that.
I go home. And
did you go home that day?
I think I was in the hospital 2 nights.
Okay.
And she has to stay longer because they can remove the kidney laparoscopically, which means a small incision using cameras. They cannot install one laparoscopically, so she had a giant surgical surgery.
So you just had a laparoscopic?
Yeah, tiny incision. I go home. 4 days later, I'm running. 5 days later, I'm back at work. It was, to me, medically, it was a real non-event. But for Brenda, it was life-changing. She was off dialysis. Yeah. And so it was great.
Now she's not prisoner to a machine every day.
Right, exactly.
She can go and live her life.
But the relationship was sort of odd, right? And we became friends, and but the friendship was really odd because there was such gratitude on her part. So we would meet for lunch. She'd insist on paying. I knew I made a lot more than Brenda, and there was just a lot of thank you. I get her giant Filipino family up in Evanston has a big party at some restaurant that was a former firehouse or something like that. I get there and it's 50 aunties are hugging me and crying. Her mom's in hysterics. Her brother and I, are hugging, and it was nice. I was just a little uncomfortable with that level of accolades, of gratitude,
right?
And I get it.
Because you're kind of a laid back kind of,
I'm all, and so so
you're not a attention seeker,
right? So my kids are getting invited to her nieces and nephews' birthday parties, and which is very nice, very friendly. I'm getting invited to all these family functions. At some point, I had to say, Brenda, listen, this was a no strings attached gift to you,
right?
I'm not going to be walking around following you, making sure you're wearing a bike helmet and stuff like that. I want you just to have a happy life.
And we'll keep a little bit in touch.
I was keeping in touch, but I wasn't, and I'm also not that kind of social animal who wants to go to the cookout every Saturday with the 10, eating lumpias with the 50 aunties and stuff like that. I go, so it's not that
my kids don't have to be
invited. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I
everything.
don't love your family. I'm just not that level of social butterfly. I kind of have my own family. I got to sort of deal with them. So you need anything, and so we began keeping in touch the way cousins might.
Sure.
Cousins in different towns. Happy birthday, Merry Christmas. When I moved to Hawaii, she had family out there. They kind of got me acclimated. Just, a wonderful people, wonderful family. And then over time, after about a decade of good use of the kidney, it started to fail. Whatever health issues she had that made her own kidneys fail eventually started attacking the kidney I donated her. She went back on dialysis, and she died 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, which was tough,
I just can't put into words how proud I am of you.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great dude. Listen, SimonInvestigations.com is your one-stop shopping, whether you need a private investigator, or whether you are perusing around Instagram, Facebook, I could not frame up and describe what type of person this gentleman is better than that story.
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't want to make it seem like that. The donating of a kidney was not a huge sacrifice to me, and the fact that it gave her a normal life for a decade was an honor.
An honor. Tom, I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks because I know Matt will have you, and I'll have you again too.
All right, let's do it. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Appreciate you, bud.
All right, buddy. Be cool.